Hello, friends. Welcome again to another edition of Paranormal Point of View. My buttons are moving very slow tonight. About like me, maybe they've had a long week. But anyway, sometimes StreamYard does that for some reason. I don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, I got to go back to my laptop next time and work it with my mouse. It might be better. I hope you all have had a good week. We're going to get into some interesting topics tonight. Shadow contracts with the forces of darkness. Okay? So you might want to get your holy water and your splash salt and oil ready and your protective crystals just in case because we're going to go into some dark subjects tonight. Okay? So get ready and let me ring up our comment section and see who all is in the house with us tonight. Okay, we got Aussie Sue, Midwest Night Watchers, Shiro, my good friend Shiro's here, my brother Midwest, my sister Aussie Sue, and David Lester, my other brother, and Ann Allred, yes, she's in here tonight. Hello, Ann, and the girl in her gong. Hello. And also we've got Joyce Hartman. Hello, Joyce. And Anna Abajari. I hope I got that right. John Fortman. Mr. Philip Cleveland is in the house, folks. Okay. And along with his beautiful wife, Crystal. Hello, Crystal. All right. So it's going to be an interesting show tonight. Okay, we're going to get into some other topics, but before we get into the dark stuff, got a few other things we'll talk about. I hope you were able to catch the show that Jessica, the cryptid huntress, and I did Thursday on, Wednesday on the Miami Mall incident. Very interesting. If you haven't seen it, then you need to go to my playlist on Hunting the Shadows YouTube channel and check it out. And also her follow-up that she did Thursday with Barry Littleton about what she actually found out about that with her remote viewing thing. And I think that we all came to the conclusion it was definitely government-related thing. So you might want to check it out. I mean, that's the thing we're going to talk about a little bit tonight. We know the government experiments on the public without a doubt. It's been going on for a long time. And we know that happens. Okay. That's not surprising. But it's not just our government either. Okay. It's the governments of the world. These globalists have got a hidden agenda, and that's what we're definitely going to talk about tonight. Hello, Love Cat. Good to have you here, Mike Jones. And we're going to really talk about that. We're going to talk about a book I got here too, and a movie review right quick. Of course, I won't call it really a movie review. I'm not going to review it that much, but I got through watching, I hadn't seen it in a while, but I got through watching John Wick, Chapter 1. John Wick is very interesting. Baba Yaga. Okay, that's Russian for the boogeyman. Okay, but actually let me tell you this, just kind of a little antidote on that. The real Baba Yaga is a woman. Okay, she is a evil witch entity that supposedly lives in the forest. She eats children, and her house walks around on chicken legs. By the way, Baba Yaga. She's a very bad magic gal. Okay, but she can be good to you too sometimes, depending on how you treat her. I think sometimes, but that's the legend. But I guess you could call her a boogie person and not a man. But anyway, Baba Yaga is very interesting. If you don't know too much about it, check it out. But I was just thinking about that with John Wick. By the way, it's a very violent movie, but it has some very interesting precepts to it. I'm not going to go deep into it. They sold his car and they killed his dog. Okay. And I can see where the man's coming from. All right. If you did that to me, I would be very badly put out too. Definitely. Okay. Moving right along. Gonna start a little thing towards the end of the show where you get to ask me some questions. Okay, so be ready for that. Hello, Scott's Lie. Similar story to the Night Hag and Isaiah. Yeah, 34. Yeah, definitely. You have that personality like that, Mike, popping up in a lot of cultures. And it's supposed to all be going back straight to Lilith. You know, Lilith, the true Night Hag. She was also called a screech owl. By the way, she's mentioned in the Bible in that respect. She haunts the desert and haunted dark places, the forbidden, desolate places of the world, supposedly, because she was the first to leave the Garden of Eden, supposedly. That's the legend of Lilith. You remember that poem I did back around Halloween, Solomon Kane's Homecoming? And he said her kiss was sweet as Lilith's had. He was talking about Lilith. How do you know how sweet her kiss was? I'd like to know. But anyway, Lilith was an interesting character, but she ties into a lot of witchcraft and demons stuff. She's supposed to be the mother of a lot of demons too, by the way. She's a very interesting person. Lilith in Hebrew for screech owl. That's right. And Lucifer and Lilith. Yeah, I heard they got together. Of course, if there was going to be a daughter of the devil in hell, it definitely would be Lilith. Okay, or a wife for that matter. Whatever the case, they were cut out for each other. Put it that way. Okay, moving right along. If you haven't ever seen John Wick, you might want to check it out, but it's not one for the kids. Okay. It's definitely not one for the kids, but I think it is one of the very, very, very excellently done movies. So if you have never seen it, check it out. If you have, there's 4 of them, by the way, and the 4th, they're actually talking about making a 5th John Wick, but he supposedly died in the 4th, but they've got an explanation of why that is. So if Hollywood can still make some money on it, they'll always bring it back from the dead, without a doubt. Anyway, thank you. Let me put that up there. Thank you, Midwest. Yes, sir. We're closing in on 400, folks. So we need some more subscribers out there. Come on, subscribe, share, like, and subscribe. Okay, get me up to 4, and I'll feel better. Okay, all right. And I make a promise. If you get me up to 400 subscribers, I will start giving some stickers away here. Okay, there you go. How's that sound? All right. Yeah, I did. I have seen The Beekeeper. It's okay. It's not really up to John Wick standards in my book the way it's made, but it's an interesting story and the way it's carried out. I like him too. I like the actor as well. I've seen him in a lot of good things. I like him. Yep. Hit the thumbs up and ring that notification bell, please. Please do that. Definitely. Out earlier, Dennis. Thank you. And the girl and her gone. I put that up. Thank you. And anyway, that's interesting. It's a pretty good movie if you want to check it out. And The Beekeeper is good too. I'll recommend that as well. Interesting story and how it's carried out. Some people have said The Beekeeper is kind of a knockoff of John Wick, but there's a little similarity. But really, it's an interesting story by itself in that respect. But anyway, I've got something here. Here, hold on. Yeah, I need a secretary badly. Okay. All right, I'm going to show what my good friend Overbuilt. I want to thank him very much. I don't think he's in here yet. I'm kind of waiting on him. If he shows up, I'll do this again. He sent me this book, The Genesis 6 Conspiracy, and I will be knocking this out over the weekend here, okay? And there will be a review next POV on this, okay? There'll be a review next time on this. But as far as I can tell, this guy is on the same page I am. Listen to this. There are giants among us, passing largely unnoticed, intent on carrying out a secret plan to enslave all humanity. We've been talking about that before, and we will definitely have a review on this book next week. Oh, yeah. And but I appreciate that, Overbuilt. fantastic gift. I really do appreciate that, and I thank you wholeheartedly for it. And it will be put to good use, my friend. Okay, you love Gary Wayne, yeah. I've heard, seen a lot of his videos, but never had a chance to actually get into the book. But let me say this. Here's the interesting thing, and I've told people this before I get into our main subject tonight. Study the book of Genesis very closely, okay? And it's a very interesting book, and it's in and of by itself. You study the book of Genesis as related to the last book, the book of Revelation, how they mesh together is very interesting. Okay. And if you can take a guidance on studying one, study them both. Okay. And you'll see what I'm talking about. But you will find some very interesting stuff. There's Overbuilt. How you doing? Okay, I was just bragging on you, sir, Overbuilt. I was thanking them, thanking you for my gift. I received it tonight, by the way. The uh, the Genesis 6 conspiracy. I'm going to be knocking this baby out over the weekend, okay? And there will be a review on this book next POV, okay? And I don't review a book unless I read it. But I will be reviewing that. But so far as I can tell, Overbuilt, Gary Wayne and I are on the same page, okay? But I'll let you know what my thoughts are on it. But I'm going to go a little bit deeper tonight into something even past a little bit of what Gary Wayne has put in on that, okay? And I'm going to get into it very shortly. I very, very greatly appreciate that, Overbuilt. Very greatly appreciate it. I appreciate it. And very thoughtful and kind of you to send me that gift, and I will definitely put it to good use. Okay. Anyway, what I was going to say is I'm going to get into some subjects that's going to be dark. Okay, so get ready for that. And one more thing, I will caution you. I hope we don't run into any. I'm not going to try to jinx us here. Any bad trouble along the way here. But when some of these subjects are brought up, weird things happen. Okay, so let me know if freaky things began to go south here, okay? And hello, Sweet Bee. Yeah, it looks like a very interesting book. I've seen some of these videos, and like I say, he and I have been basically on the same page with the Nephilim. And I've talked a lot about the Nephilim, and there's a lot more that needs to be said about the Nephilim. And he is very right in the fact that the bloodline of the Nephilim is still with us. The blood, the DNA is what I've always talked about. It's still here, okay? And the spirit of the Nephilim, too, is another thing. It's not just the bloodline, the physical part of it. It's the spiritual spirit of the Nephilim is still in this world. And that's basically what a lot of connection is I want to be talking about tonight. Now, that's, of course, the... hold on just a second. Let me get this here. Buttons are doing freaky stuff tonight. Okay, but this is what we're doing tonight. Shadow contracts with the forces of darkness. Okay, that's what our main subject's going to be about tonight, and we will be getting into that very shortly here. And this is, of course, we're just going to kind of skim the top on this, okay? Because this is going to will take several shows to get deep into it. Well, let me talk about shadow contracts. What the heck is a shadow contract? Okay, what is this called? Actually, basically, it's just another fancy way to say a deal with the devil. Okay, that's basically what it is. And hello, spirituality. Violin makes me cry. Good to have you here. It's a deal with the devil. Okay, you can go into contracts with certain forces in this world. I've run into this a lot in my career. There are people who have come to me who have made these contracts and want out of these contracts. And it's very, very hard to get out of these contracts. Once you sell your soul, it's very hard for you to ever get your soul back. Very, very rare that you will, because here's the interesting part. You don't want to, really. It's just like when the claws of darkness gets a hold of you. They like stick chains in you. You may want to get away from it, but you really can't. And you really don't want to. There's a part of you, it hooks into the dark side of you. See, that's the bad thing about evil in this world. It connects with that dark side that's in all of us. Okay. And it brings forth that darkness out of us. It strengthens that darkness until eventually that darkness in us can overcome us. Okay. That's why we need the light of God in us to combat this darkness that's already in us, not just the darkness in the world. If it was just darkness in the world, we'd probably have a leg up in the saddle on this, okay? But we don't, because there is a certain amount of darkness in us. And darkness attracts darkness, just like the light attracts light. These things go together. This is the universal law. Positive attracts positive, negative attracts negative energy. Positive and negative don't get together, okay? You know, if you ever played with magnets as a kid, you know what I'm talking about. The positive, negative sides of magnets will not hook up, okay? That's the way they go. That's a law of the universe, okay? And that's the way it goes with that darkness that's already inside us. There's a light inside of us too. Okay, there's the light part. Some people have called these the good and bad angels of our nature. Okay, that's what we're made up of, because we are the victims of a sin infected world. That's why this darkness is all in us. Adam and Eve did not have a bit of this darkness in them until they broke God's laws and commands in the Garden of Eden and ate that forbidden fruit. They they didn't have that darkness in them. They had only the innocence of light in them. But they forsaken that. They were led astray, and they lost that innocence. They lost a lot of that light, and not all of it. Well, that would have extinguished them forever spiritually, but they lost a lot of it, and that's when the darkness came in on that side of it. So that's the way you got to look at these spiritual things. Okay. Um, the number one thing you got to remember about light and darkness: light is substance, darkness is not. Okay. Darkness is simply the absence of light. That's what it is. It's sort of like a vacuum, in that respect. Spiritualists, do you think that darkness is affected by our egos? Oh, definitely. They're hooked up together. Okay. Don't forget what Satan said to Adam and Eve. Eat this fruit, you'll be like what? Gods, and you'll know good and right and wrong and all that stuff. He appealed to their ego. He still does that, okay? Because he's an egomaniac. What have I said about demons and the devil himself before? They are megala egomaniacs. That's all they are. They're all about themselves and nothing else. That's why they hate each other. That's why they hate us. They really, truly hate themselves, but they never own up to that. But they're still egomaniacs. They want to be worshipped as gods. That's what they want to be. They want to be the gods of this world. And that's what I'm going to talk about shortly in a book review of my own that I've got coming out, The God Factor. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but we'll get into that shortly. But anyway, when you enter into these contracts, these shadow contracts with the forces of darkness, you are selling your soul, basically. You're selling yourself over to the other side of darkness. Or as they say in Star Wars, you're embracing the darkness of the Force. Okay, that's kind of a quasi spiritual thing, but it's not really Christian. Okay, because that's not the outlook on that. We'll have to get into that some other time. I'm not going to be talking about the Jedi Knight and the Force tonight. But anyway, the devil's serpent was the fruit he made Cain with. Yeah. The interesting thing about that episode in the Garden of Eden, they were innocent as children. Okay. They were very innocent. They were sitting around naked and didn't even realize they were naked. That's why when God came looking for them and couldn't find them, he said, "Where are you at?" Of course, God knew where they were at. But he said, "Where are you at?" And he said, "Why are you hiding?" And they said, "Well, we're hiding because we're naked." And that's when God said, "Who told you you were naked?" Okay. So that's when Adam had to own up to what he'd done and kind of passed the buck on to Eve, by the way. This is normal. It's human. Okay, it's me human. It's not my fault. Eve made me do it. Okay. Um, it didn't work out too well for him that way, though. That excuse did not hold up. Okay. That's when the ultimate responsibility came down the line. And one of my favorite quotes, and I always think about Adam when I hear this, by Robert Louis Stevenson, who said, "One day we will all sit down to a banquet of consequences. We'll have to answer for the consequences of what we've done, whether we want to or not." And Adam had to do that, and so did Eve, because they did wrong. They violated the precepts of God. They went against the laws. He said, "This is the rule. Don't break it," but they did. They didn't listen. Um, uh, anyway, the interesting thing about what happened is they had the innocence of children, but then they suddenly grew up and they could see they were naked, and their innocence was gone. That's the interesting thing, and that darkness was there though. It fills a vacuum. Okay, without the light, there is darkness. Okay, that's the way that goes. That's another precept of the universe. Um, that's why in the book of Genesis, it's very important to remember God says something. The very first thing he does, "Let there be light." And there was light. And he saw that the light was good. Light was brought into the universe. Okay? Light was brought into the universe against the darkness that was already here. There's light shines in the darkness, as the Bible says, and the darkness comprehended it not. Okay? That's very interesting. Anyway, the interesting thing, we've got an interesting discussion going on about Star Wars here. But the interesting thing about all this is that when you enter into one of these contracts and you sell your soul, you're selling yourself over to their side. You're going to do what your masters tell you to do. So I'll ask you this. How many people have ever come up to any of you and said, "Look, sign this contract, we'll make a Hollywood star out of you, or we'll make a famous singer out of you, or we'll make you a famous football or baseball player," or whatever the situation is? Nobody ever comes up and offers you that. They sure haven't done that to me. Nobody's ever come up and offered me $1 million. I don't know about you, but they never have me. Nobody's doing that. They're not going around giving that out. But why do certain people get that? Have you ever asked that question? Why do certain people come out of nowhere with a lot of money, power, and prestige? How did they get that? Where did they get that? I'll tell you without doubt where some of them get it. They sign shadow contracts. They sign themselves over to this darkness to get the things that they want. They don't realize, though, unfortunately, that sadly they are just tools in this master plan of evil, that Gary Wayne talks about and what I've talked about many times before. This plan that's been put in action since the beginning of the world to destroy the creation of God and the love of God in this universe. That's what it's all about. But when you sign that contract and you go into that, whether you sign it verbally or with your blood as they used to in the old days, or whatever the case is, it is a spiritually binding contract. Okay. And then you can't get out of it very easy. You can't just one day wake up and say, "Oh, I don't think I'm going to do that anymore." It's not that easy, okay? Because believe me, I have seen people put 6 foot under because they signed these contracts. They went into agreements with these contracts, and these shadow contracts destroyed them. Eventually, that's what happens. And now you're beginning to see a lot of this stuff in Hollywood and the media, with people coming out and actually almost admitting that they have sold their souls to the devil. John Foreman wants to know, why was darkness first, the primordial state? Did it pre-exist God? No, darkness is actually not a force in that respect until it was encompassed by evil. Darkness is just the absence of light. It is nothing. If you look up in the sky at night, the space, which is endless darkness between the stars, or between the galaxies, whatever you're looking at, is just empty space. That's why we call it space, by the way. But darkness does have a almost physicality to it. There has been speculation that you can take this empty space and actually derive energy out of it because of the dark matter. I'm not going to get into physics tonight on that. Dark matter is interesting. I go into that a little bit in my book, The Road Unseen, okay? If you want to check that out. It's very interesting, and we'll have to do a show on just quantum physics one night. But darkness is involved in that, along with the dark matter and all that stuff. There's a video Bob Dylan says that he can't retire because of the contract with the chief commander. There you go. I mean, who is the chief commander, right? You better look at the very fine print on that contract, folks. Whatever contract, whether it's with Satan or whoever you make it with, you better, because contracts not only are legally binding, they are universally binding. In other words, when you make a promise, even God has said this in the Bible, when you make a promise to God, it would be better that you cut your head off or something than to break that promise, because promises is a promise, okay? It is a promise to do something. And if you go back on a promise, then it becomes what? A lie. And even any judge in this country that's worth anything would throw your whole case out if you're caught in one little lie, okay? Because it disqualifies you across the board. You've lost your true reputation. If today I catch you lying, no matter what it is, if I catch you in a lie, your reputation is hanging by a thread, okay? Because people will then on will say, "Oh, well, you're telling a lie. You're a liar. They can't trust you anymore." How could you ever trust, especially these politicians we have? How can you ever trust what they would say anymore? Okay? Because they lie so well, okay? That's the way that goes. The world became void, the fall of Satan, the destruction of the ancient first earth age. Yeah, well, as the Bible says, it was the book of Genesis says it was void without form, and void, it was chaos. I think the Greek word is chaotic with that. It was in turmoil, which I think may have been something to do a lot with the age of dinosaurs as well. Go back to the book of Genesis. There's a lot of very, very interesting stuff there to read. Job, quote, "Where will you go, Job, when I found you, the earth and all the stars, the sun shouted for joy, the morning stars." Yeah, God laid a foundation for everything. At the beginning, there was nothing but God. Think about that. At the very, very beginning of everything, there was God, but he has no beginning. He has always been there and always will be there. No matter how much the forces of darkness want to fight against that. Okay? That's the way that goes. There's a gap of time between Genesis 12 including fall. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of time in there. And like I said before, my Jones, you could create everything old, already old. You wouldn't make it, you might not come out with it brand new. It makes sense to create it already in its timeline than to go from the beginning. I mean, think about it. If they say the Earth is 50 billion years old and all that, it could possibly be that, but it could have been created that way. They don't take that into account. Okay? You get my drift? Okay. Anyway, getting back to the shadow contracts. The people that sign these contracts or go into these agreements, okay, we'll call it that too, are some of the celebrities out there that have done that, okay? There's a lot of them. I'm not going to name any names tonight, but some of them are different. Some of them are, some celebrities you can tell are not in that respect signers of these contracts, without a doubt. Money is not everything. Money and power is not everything to them. But let me tell you something. When you get to become a little bit of a celebrity, it changes you. No matter how much you want to stay the same, it will change you. Power changes you. Money changes you, whether you want it to or not. It still will do that. That's just the way it does. Okay. But if you are spiritually based in a good way, you can handle that change. I'm thinking about Keanu Reeves. Okay. I know he's got kind of a wild kind of aspect to him when he's younger, but he's a very quiet guy, and he's very, very big in philanthropy. He gives away millions of dollars, and he gives away a lot of things. And he's very kind of humble kind of a guy. I like to see an actor like that. Okay, and I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm sure he's got some bad things too. But I like his name, by the way, Keanu, which means this is a Hawaiian word for mean cool breeze over the mountains. His daddy, I think, his father was like a quarter Hawaiian or something like that. So he's got a little bit of Chinese in him, I think, something like that. But anyway, he's a very humble guy, and seems like a very kind of a spiritual guy. I don't know. I'd like to meet him one day and talk to him. They say he's a really down to earth guy. But see, some of these you can tell, some of these can manage this stuff better than others. But others, if they go into these shadow contracts, it will change them completely. Especially like with a lot of these politicians you see. If you go to Washington tonight and take a survey, every politician that has a seat in Congress or the Senate, and that includes in the White House as well, none of them are usually very poor or anything. They're all rich. They're all millionaires. Most of them are. Okay. If you liquefy their assets, they are definitely millionaires. Okay. Without doubt. Some have more than that. Look at Nancy Pelosi. I think she's almost approaching billionaire status. How do they get this? Okay. Like I said before at the beginning of this program, nobody's ever come dropped $1 million in my lap. Has they done you that way? Have they really come start trying to force money on you? Nobody's ever done me like that. I wish, kind of sometimes I wish they would, but they don't. But you don't want to do. You don't want to wish that because all of this stuff, my friends, comes with a price, a very bad price. Okay, but let's turn now from individuals who may have signed these shadow contracts to governments and corporations that may have signed these type of shadow contracts. Who are they in league with? Aliens, demons, or both? I think they are both and one and the same. Okay? In many aspects, I think that demons are appearing in this world as aliens or wanting us to believe that they are aliens because they have an ulterior motive. They always have an ulterior motive, okay? They're up to something, without a doubt, and they have a plan. And the plan is to fool mankind and lead mankind away from the truth and to believe in things that are not true or real and to twist your reality till you get to the point where that they hook up with that darkness already in you and it overwhelms you. That's what they want to do. And that's the way they work. John 16 said, and ye shall also bear witness because ye have been with me from the beginning. That's true. And I think a lot of this stuff, and John Keel, the very famous John Keel, I've read a lot of his stuff. He was a brilliant man, smart guy, okay? He believed the same thing. He said there is something downright demonic about all these UFOs and alien stuff that's going on, okay? There's men in black and all this other stuff. I've seen the men in black, okay? I've had a run in with them. And I almost lost my life not long after that. These forces are not to be toyed with. They're very dangerous. And you got to remember, this is very extreme darkness. Scott Life, man, is the person making the statement. I thought you might know where it was at. I've never heard or read that. That's what Jonathan Jesus is talking about at the beginning of his ministry. Okay. Jonathan society is becoming too influential. Definitely. You've got a lot of these secret societies. You've got a lot of these corporations. You've got a lot of lawyers. You've got, Washington, D.C. is full of lawyers, by the way. What does that tell you? You've got these personalities and celebrities that are involved in this. And then you have governments who are involved in this. And like I said before, and I said this on Jessica's show the other day, there is without a doubt, no doubt in my mind, that the government has gone into the league with demons. In some way or another, they have contacted demons. They have demons inside the government. I don't know what's going on with that, but it needs to be looked into deeper, definitely. Midwest says Night, Skull and Bones. That's another one of those societies. Why do they have to do this for? Why is the secret stuff going on? What are they really up to? Okay, and who is behind it all? I'll tell you who's behind it all. The forces of darkness, because this is exactly the way they operate in the thresholds of humanity. Okay, this is the way they get humans on board with this stuff. And here's the way he looked at it, like I said earlier about the ego. It's us against them. You're better than they are. You're just as good as we are. You deserve to be with us. We are the Illuminati. We are the illuminated ones. We're the ones who are going to save mankind. We're the ones who's smarter than they are. You're not. They're not our kind. And okay, not our kind. Okay, that's a secret little thing they say. And okay, he's in okay. He's not our kind. Okay. So they're kind of these bloodlines that we've talked about before. These bloodlines that run through humanity are connected to the Nephilim in that respect. It goes way back to ancient bloodlines like the Beiderbecks and some of these other families that you hear about uh, in Europe and places like that are connected to ancient royalty as well. These bloodlines have been intact for a long, long time because they are part of the contracts. Okay, their families have made contracts with these dark forces from years and years and way back. Okay, um, yeah, the Freemasons, maybe some of them. The original Knights Templar were. Now, I'm a Knight Templar, but this is a completely different organization. It's not the original Knight Templars, okay? This is a Christian organization, and it's not associated with the real Knight Templars. The real Knight Templars actually went into the Masons. That's another story for another time. They were actually assimilated, and that is where the true Masons actually originated from, supposedly. Um, but anyway, enough of the Knight Templar. Overbill says Black Rock Company built on a rock. To them is the Black Rock's name. Oh yeah, Black Rock is one of the most insidious organizations out there, and I guarantee you, without a doubt, they have on their shadow contracts. Okay. And there are other companies that are, look at Apple. Apple is the biggest company in the world. Okay. Next to that is Saudi Arabia, Aramco. Next to that is Amazon. These are very large conglomerates. BlackRock is one of them. There's another one, I can't think of his name, that they hold a lot of the contracts to these companies and they get people to invest in these companies. They hold stocks in these companies. They run the whole shebang from the background. Okay. Now, let me tell you one more thing. Okay. And I hate to say this, and I know this sounds bad, but it's unfortunately true. Wherever evil dwells in this world, wherever there's a stronghold of evil, that is where you will find the rich and the powerful. Okay? Don't forget that without a doubt. And that much goes back to the book of Revelation. And when the Antichrist will spend 2 hours with these guys and come out with all the power in the world because they have the power to give it to him. You see, he'll then hold the purse strings of the world. Economies will be in his hands. He will rule all. That's why you won't be able to buy, sell, or trade without his mark. Okay. And it said the false prophet will cause them to worship the image of the beast. And it all comes down to image, folks. Imagery is a big thing here, okay? Look at that. AI, robotics, these are beings built in the image of man, okay? We keep coming back to that word, image, okay? The image of the beast. Why is he called a beast, by the way? Because you got to remember, he is half human and half demon. The human part of him is directly connected to the bloodline of the Nephilim. Okay, don't forget that. That's where he comes from. That's his bona fide uh, credentials. Okay, that's exactly where his human part is coming from, and that's what part of the plan was all about to begin with. The satanic plan was to lay the foundation for the coming of the son of Satan, and that's who he is. And he's called a beast because he's man. Man, the demonic, let me tell you this, the demonic wants to deride and lower mankind to below the threshold of animals, the beasts. Okay? That's the way that works. That's the way they always accomplish things. Also, Sue says it's well known here in Australia, Denison country is absolutely 100% run by the Freedoms, and they're not hiding anymore. Whereas Satanic Church, even here in Brisbane, Queensland, oh, absolutely, they're coming out of the shadows now. They're coming out of the darkness because people are accepting them more, and they don't really need to hide. Why? Because you don't need to hide your hand anymore when you're holding the winning cards in the game, okay? You don't have to hide your hand anymore. You can lay your winning card hand down. You got it right where you want it, and they don't have to worry about hiding anymore, okay? But eventually, more and more, you're going to see this more and more and more happen as time goes on. They're going to show more and more of their true colors where this is concerned. Let's see what Mike Jones said. The apostles into us just like the warnings of Christ, the coming false Christ, to rapture the Taurus. Christ has a problem with 5 to 7 churches with the bull they teach. Well, that's the religious part of it, Mike Jones. Religion is a power in this world too. Look at the popes. Look at the many crusades and the thousands and thousands of people that died, and children even in crusades. And the Pope did not send them there except to increase the money in his coffers. Okay, that's what that was all about. It's all political stuff. That's what it is. And Lovecat says they're indoctrinating. Oh, they're coming after your children. Lovecat. They already have told you that. We're coming for your children. The minds of your children, the indoctrination, the brainwashing, whatever name you want to give it. Programming is what I call it. That's what they are. They're programming your children, and they will program your grandchildren and your children's grandchildren. That's what this is all about, folks. It is the contracts they've signed, because once you sign these shadow contracts or go into league with them, these forces, you've got to do what they want, and you've got to buy into their master plan. Don't forget that. You're buying into their master plan. And their master plan is very well laid out in the book of Genesis and the book of Revelation. Okay, that's from the beginning to the end. And we can see exactly what they're up to in that respect. Now, that leads into my book, the one I'm currently writing, The God Game. Okay, because that's the game they're playing here. That's why all these people go missing, children and grown people. Go missing, a lot of them do, because they end up as victims of the beast, okay? We're going to have to start calling him the beast, because the beast can not only symbolize a man, but it also symbolizes his world system, his social system that he's going to put into effect, okay? It is a beast too, okay? And that's why they worship the image of it as well, okay? Don't forget that. You see how this all connects together, don't you? And that's exactly what they're up to with these things. Mike Jones says crossroads, one side is a wide road, the other is a narrow way. That's exactly right. And the narrow way leads to redemption. The wide is the way that leads to hell. And I often said hell has a 6-lane highway going to it. It's very wide. And people are really zipping along it very fast. And that road, by the way, is paved with good intentions, without a doubt. It's the paving company, Good Intentions Paving Company. Anyway, these contracts that have been signed by not just people, but by governments and all that, they know that they are in bed with these forces. They are they have bought into the agenda. That's why they're coming after your children. They're coming after you. They're trying to change you. If you could go back, and here I'm going to say something very strange here. If you could go back 10 years and meet yourself 10 years ago, would you recognize yourself? Would there be a lot of changes that you didn't think you would change? Maybe the way you think, the way you act, and the way you look at life. That's the way they want to change you. They want to change the very precepts of the things that you believe in your life. And that's what we've got to watch out for. And that's why I say we must begin to think about being spiritual warriors against this stuff, okay? We've got to begin with each one of us individually because I said, as is so many times before, the battles are fought by on an individual basis, okay? I've got a case coming up very shortly in a few days, and I want you all to be praying for me and be thinking good thoughts for me because it's going to be a very, I think, interesting and maybe a hard case, but it is a demonic case. And I'm going to be coming up against it very shortly in a few days. And it may be a very hard one. So be thinking good thoughts for me and be praying for me because it's going to be tough, I think. And I'm going to need all the prayers I possibly can get on this. Um, it's going when you come up against the forces of darkness, you got to remember one thing. You must be ready spiritually, okay? And that's what you got to do. You got to work on your spirituality. I'm not talking about your religion. I'm talking about your spirituality, your relationship with your creator, okay? That's all very important because that's what grounds you. That's the rock you need to stand upon, you know? Uh, as Jesus said to Peter, you are the rock upon which I will build my church, and not even the gates of hell will prevail against it. But what rock, what church is he talking about? He's not talking about a church or a religion here, folks. He's talking about a kingdom, a group of people who believe in him, who follow him, who have accepted him. That is his true church, the bride, as it is called. That is the true thing, not some other man-made religion, not that. This is the real true calling of the real church, okay? And you got to remember that's what that's based on. Hello, Stuart. Thank you. And um, this case I'm coming up against in a few days, I'll give you a rundown on it later and to let you know how everything goes with it. But um, you're right, Mike Jones. God Almighty is the rock of ages, and the rock stands and stands forever. We just got to be on the rock, okay? We got to become part of that rock. And as spiritual warriors, we've got to be ready. We've got to center ourselves spiritually to be able to handle the things that are coming upon us, okay? And I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It's not going to be good things, probably. No, no. I don't see it coming out that way for a while. I think, without a doubt, it's going along faster than I ever would have thought it would. It is developing much faster. So we've got to really be careful. And we've got to ground ourselves. And we've got to do it spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And we've got to work on those areas because those are the areas that this darkness wants to prevail against. And then will come against us. And wherever we're weakest, that's where we need to shore up the chinks in our armor. We've got to be ready, okay? And the girl in the gong says, no weapon is formed against thee shall prosper. That's true. But we've got to be ready as warriors, spiritual warriors, with our faith, the sword of the Spirit, the shield of faith. Those are the things we've got to be ready for. And we've got to equip ourselves for. Because perilous times are coming, without a doubt. And it's not going to be good stuff. It's coming down the line, okay? It's definitely not. But the war is already won. That's the good thing about it. It's the battles that have to still be fought. And God can help us in our battles. As it says in the Bible, who can be against us if God is for us? Okay, that's the way that works. But we got to make sure we're on God's side, not God on our side. It's got to go the other way. We got to make sure we're on the side of God because that's where we need to be. Okay, definitely. There's definitely much harder times coming before we defeat the evil. That's true, Aussie. But it will be a much better day. And like I say, if you read it from the beginning straight to the end, even just these two books, Genesis and Revelation, it is mind opening, okay, to see how they both mesh together, how the beginning and the end comes all the way back around again to the beginning. It's amazing. It's that a circle of eternity, that eternal circle that goes. But we have these people, these forces in the world working against us. And we've got to recognize that. We don't need to be scared of them. I'm not telling you to be afraid of them. No, no, no. Fear is not what you want to deal with. That's the way they deal with it. They want you to be fearful. They definitely want you to be afraid, but don't fall for that trap. That's not the way that works. Be bold and be courageous, and don't hold back 1 minute on that because fear is the enemy of faith. But faith, my friends, is the enemy of fear. Don't ever forget that. And that's what we've got to remember. Okay, that's a little bit about the contracts. We may get in some more about that later on. I will tell some personal stories about some people I've dealt with who have gone into these shadow contracts and what happened to them. Okay, maybe we'll talk about that later on. But now, Wednesday night on Hunting the Shadows, you definitely don't want to miss that one because we're going to have a very interesting show Wednesday night. We're going to be talking about dryads and nymphs and sayers, and we're going to get into some interesting stuff. Maybe some orcs and trolls, and maybe a few goblins or so. So we're going to get into the Fae. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the Fae and some of that stuff. So you might want to be ready for that Wednesday night. It's going to be very interesting, and definitely, it's one of my favorite subjects. The Fae is fascinating stuff. Fairies have always fascinated me in that respect. Uh, well, we're going to be getting into that. Now, I'm going to open the show up a little bit tonight here in the last few minutes and say if there's one question you want to ask me, now's your time to ask, okay? Whatever question, I don't care what it is. Whatever question you want to ask me or something you want to know from me, now is your time to do it, okay? Also, said God created the heavens and the earth, and the evil is corrupted out, but it will be His again. We must keep the faith, positive prayers. That's exactly right. It will. Here's the interesting thing about the Bible. I've always heard some preachers say this too. Uh, I know how it's going to end because I read the book. Okay, I know how it's going to end, and it's going to end good. The good guys win. Okay, and that's the good thing. Keep your mind on all the time. Good will triumph over evil. I can guarantee you that, my friend. That is definitely set in stone. Have a great night and day. Thank you, Derek. Good to have you here, Derek. But like I say now, if there's any one question you want to ask me, I'm throwing the floor open for you tonight. We have a little open forum towards the end of the show anyway. So if there's anything you want to ask, how did let's see, John Foreman, how did you get into demonology, and are you a priest? No, I am I am a minister, but not a priest. I'm not in the Catholic Church. That's why I do not call myself an actual demonologist. Demonologists are only actually ordained by the Catholic Church. I am a demonology consultant. I do help people with demonology problems, but I'm not an exorcist in that respect. I have participated in exorcisms, but I'm not an exorcist myself. I'm a demonology consultant, okay, because I have learned a lot about demonology and the occult, supernatural, superstition, and folklore. So that's why I get called on. I have dealt with a lot of problems all over the world. Now, the one I'm going to be doing next week is actually a spiritual cleansing against dark forces in a place. So it's what you kind of would call a location exorcism, if you want to give it a fancy name. But I got into demonology because many years ago, when I was a young boy, I actually had an incident where I saw demons, three demons exit a man, and that's what got me on the road to understanding a lot of these things. Pugel said the light will banish the darkness. Absolutely. God, who was it, who was, and who will be? Yeah, girl, what do you know of satyrs? Satyrs, I think we're going to get into that next week, next Wednesday, okay? I'm going to talk a little bit more about them. They are sort of nature's spirits, okay? So we're going to be talking about that and a lot of these dryads and nymphs and all that. Dennis, what is the difference between the Greek Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church? The Greek Orthodox is more lined up with the Bible in certain ways than the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church actually has its own Bible, although it is our Bible. There's a lot more to it, but they have their own different aspect of it. That's what we talked about with religions. They have their own different look out on the Bible than the Orthodox Church. Orthodox means they stick a little bit more stricter to the Bible than some of the Catholics do. And there are some other contention of the fact is where I really part roads with the Catholic Church. They believe that Mary was actually born without sin. And nowhere in the Bible does it say that. Okay, that's just something the Pope came up with because they venerate Mary so much. And I'll tell you why. And I've talked about this before in the past. The Catholic Church tried to bring in the paganistic views of goddess worship and all this other stuff. They tried to bring it assimilate it into the church, but it became so deep into it that they're actually still practicing an almost goddess like worship with Mary, and that's not good. Let me tell you one quick thing that it says in the Bible. Jesus was walking along the road and somebody hollered out, said, "Blessed is the paps that gave you suck." In other words, blessed is your mother amongst all women. And Jesus turned to him and said, "No, blessed is he who does the will of my Father." Now that tells you right there where Mary's place is in all of this. And it's not where the Catholic Church has put her. Okay. And she was definitely not born. She was a holy woman, but she was not born without sin. Nowhere does it say that in the Bible. That is not biblical. Jesus was the only one ever born into this world without sin. Not his mother. He was. Okay. Can you tell us about the three demon sighting? Well, I was at a church. I'll run it down real quick for you. I was at a church. I was about, I think, maybe 12, 13 years old, something like that. Maybe I might have been 14, somewhere in there. I was very young. And I was sitting at the back of the church. It was on a Sunday morning. And this guy that played the piano started going crazy, kind of weird stuff up there. And he was banging on it, banging all kinds of weird. So they got him down and was praying for this man, and the minister told everybody, said, "Now everybody, we need you to pray. Close your eyes, bow your heads, and pray." Well, I didn't. I kept watching, and as I watched, I seen these demons come out of this man, three of them, and the only way I can describe them, and they have taken on, I've seen them take on many different types of forms over the years, but this is the first way I saw them. The only way I can describe them, John, was they looked like three soccer ball size balls of dirty light. You can understand what I'm getting at. It was more like a spiritual energy. I've come to find out later that's what it was I was seeing. But they exited this man one at a time and went through the wall right in front of me. I mean, I only saw them. I could not deny what I saw. My jaw was on the floor. I couldn't really believe it. It took me a while to understand, and then I wanted to go find out exactly what it was. And that set me on the road. That's what built the fire under me to learn what it was I had experienced. Then so I'd know your thoughts on the legitimacy of death, trips to heaven, hell, those folks being returned to their bodies, particularly details they share. Well, I've studied a lot of near-death experiences, Scott, and I think a lot of them are very legitimate in that respect. And I think sometimes uh, things happen and it's just not your time. You know, the Bible says there's a time for everything, a time to live and a time to die. And if it ain't your time, it ain't your time. Um, you will get sent back. And I think you need, and I think this is a personal experience many times that you are given this spiritual experience so that it will change your life or enhance your life or maybe even build up your faith. A lot of times these things happen for reasons, okay? We are shown things. Sometimes the veil will part for us. And I think there's a reason a lot of times for that. Okay, there's been some times in my life when I've seen things that changed my outlook. Okay, without a doubt. Uh, let's got any more questions now? Come on, now's your time. Nothing works at night. Let's see. But anyway, let's see. First comment and commandment: no other God. Prayers to others are wasted. That's true. Uh, Here's the bad thing about this whole thing, Mike Jones. You don't put Mary in between you and God. Jesus is the only one that stands between you and God because he's the mediator, the way to God. The way is open. He was the sacrificial lamb of God. He died for all of us so that he could stand there and get God to accept us this way because we are sinful creatures. He died for us. He took the sins of the world upon himself. Mary didn't do that, okay? But they're trying to put her in there too. I just don't buy that. As a scholar, as a biblical scholar, and I am a doctor of divinity too, I do not believe that, okay? Uh, Without a doubt, it is anti biblical, anti word of God. Alyssa, the crafty rascal, but he's no step for the big stepper. And wisdom is described as female in Job, and I believe that's why a lot of goddess worship went on in the ancient days, and why they were very careful about that because it all comes down to fertility and all that stuff. I won't get into that tonight, but the female thing, no man, male or female, needs to be venerated as a god. Okay, that's just not the way that goes. Only one person is, and that's Jesus Christ. He is the only one that needs to be venerated. He is the way, not either no man or no woman, whatever the case may be. I've seen a glowing orb. I believe and understand your description of the dirty orb now. What a compelling experience. It was something, it's one of those life changing things when you see it, and it took me a while to say that I believe what I saw. I mean, I really saw it. I saw it. It took me a while to assimilate that. Maybe I'm slow, but it took me a while to understand, and then I really wanted to find out what it was all about, and that's what led me to begin my journey through the paranormal. Although before that I had several paranormal experiences, it's all in my book, The Road Unseen, a paranormal journey into high strangeness. I talk about a lot about that and some other experiences, my UFO experience I had, and some other things too. You felt like you had to do something with it. No, definitely. I mean, it was very compelling. I said, like I say, when you see something like that, John, the first thing that comes in your mind, if this is real, if this truly exists, then what else is out there? What else exists? That's the question that will haunt you for the rest of your life once you experience that. Let's see. Uh, uh, My grandfather, see, my grandfather also says my grandfather, father always said that we came in with a number and go out with a number. But God's the only one that knows when it is time. Yeah, there used to be an old joke and said, when it comes my time to go, it's my time to go. But if I'm on an airplane, I hope it's not the pilot's time to go. But anyway, that's an old joke. My God, let's see. That's why wombs are considered portals. Women's functions of creation in sacred and specific God creation expressed through the womb. Yeah, that's the line a lot of the Scottish worship went on. Okay, the fertility part of it, definitely. And but they used that to do some very bad things. Okay, and back in the ancient days and the weird religions they had and all that stuff. Um, they used it in very bad ways. Mankind always uses religion, whatever it may be, whether it's goddess worship or whatever, in the wrong way. Jesus is our high priest, my John says, and confess to him, not to some human. There you go. And sweet peace. Why is it that so things you Jesus in his lifetime did not want worship? Jesus said, "No one is good, no one but the Father. That's who you worship." Jesus didn't come down here. He was the sacrifice. He did. He was not the one that went around judging people. That was not his job. He didn't go around judging. Did you see any part where he went around judging? You know a tree by the fruit that it bears. Jesus said that very plainly. But you didn't go around judging. Look at the very famous incident of the woman that was going to be stoned to death. Uh, when they all left, that he who's ever without sin cast the first stone. Okay, and they all dropped their stones and left. And he turned to the woman and said, "Woman, where are thy accusers?" And she said, "No, they're gone, my lord." And he said, "Well, neither do I accuse you. Go your way and sin no more." That's very, very bold statement there. He was not he was not here to condemn the world. He came here to save it. That's the big issue there. Dennis may say they're trying to bring back God's worship again. What are your thoughts on this? Oh, definitely. It has never really gone anywhere, Love Cat. It's just gone underground in some instances. It's still there. Uh, Look at some of your biggest entertainers in the past and in the day were women. Okay, a lot of worship goes on with that, celebrity worship, and and some of the men are involved in that too. A lot of this stuff is still with us. It's just in a different form. But no matter which way a snake crawls, he's still a snake. Okay. But anyway, the real Christ put God first. The one coming soon who says the Son of God, but speaks as a dragon, claims to be God. Oh yeah, you gotta remember, the Jews are still waiting for their Messiah. Okay, now that's the interesting point. They will accept the wrong one. They refuse the right one and accept the wrong one. To me, that's the setup right there. Well, thank you, love. Yep. You are right on the money with that. But with time's running out now, if you have any more questions, now's your time. I'm going to close out here in a little bit. And it's been an interesting point of view episode. And we'll see what we get into next time. And I definitely will have a review on this book, the Genesis 6 Conspiracy. Yep. I think he and I are basically on the same page. Thank you for the night, Dennis. We'll see you later. Thank you, Scott. And the bitter, the gold. Yep. Yeah. He will turn them over to a lie, to believe a lie and be damned. That's the way they want to go. And like I say, all during the book of Revelation, he keeps popping back up. And still, they would not repent. Man stiffens his neck and hardens his heart against God. He will not repent of his sins. He will not come up to the fact that he was wrong and's gone down the wrong way. He'd rather perish and go to hell with the devil and his angels than to do that. That's a sad, sad commentary, definitely. Thank you, David Lester. Glad you could make it, my friend. And good for you to be here. And say hello to your wife for me, Melissa. And thank you all for being here tonight. It has been an interesting show. And who knows what we'll get into next time. Okay. So and don't forget Wednesday night We're going to be talking about the Fae, satyrs, nymphs, wood nymphs, water nymphs, dryads, the whole works. It's very fascinating stuff. And I might even throw some centaurs in there a little bit, you know. Okay, we'll see how that goes, and maybe even Pan will show up. So we'll see what goes down the line there. Well, thank you all for being here tonight, and I appreciate your time and effort. And remember, this is your podcast too. We're all family. We're spiritual warriors together in this fight. Okay, and we've all got each other's backs. Go out and get us some more subscribers. Okay, recommend us to your friends. Tell them to tune in. And we've got some good stuff coming up in the future if nothing happens. And be thinking of thoughts for me this week. And I will definitely, God willing, we'll get together again Wednesday night, and we'll see what goes down the line. And until then, remember, semper veritas. That means hold the truth. And non timbo mala, fear no evil. Carpe noctem, seize the night, and embrace the mystery. Godspeed.